At Sunbelt Atlanta, their team is made up of seasoned professionals with more than 70 years of collective experience selling companies. Their backgrounds and industry experience are as varied as the companies they represent. Some come from Main Street, some from Wall Street. Now, collectively, Sunbelt Atlanta business brokers have closed hundreds of transactions, and the companies they have sold range in size from $100,000 to $50 million in revenue and spanned all industries. Doreen Morgan owns Sunbelt Atlanta, and she is one of the leading merger and acquisition advisors in the United States, specializing in franchise and specialty distribution business models. For more than 15 years, Doreen has advised franchisors, multi-unit franchisees, and owners of proprietary and patented products on short and long-term portfolio exit strategies and corporate divestitures. Sunbelt has helped hundreds of business owners in Georgia get the most value from the sale of their business. Sunbelt Atlanta business brokers are a full-service company when it comes time to sell or buy a business with zero upfront fees. So discover the Sunbelt Atlanta difference and contact them today at 770-936-9099. Once again, that's 770-936-9099. Or you can visit them on the web at sunbeltatlanta.com.
Welcome back to Ask the Experts, brought to you by Custom Comfort Cooling and Heating. Now back to your host, Steve O.
And we are back. We have another great expert that, because of, I guess, the times with COVID going on, and there's people out there looking for maybe something new to do, maybe own their own business. We have made a deal that we are going to have the Sunbelt business broker experts on with us every week at 9:30. And we'll be talking about how to sell your business, buying a business, and we're going to use different areas of business. For example, today we're going to be talking about insurance agencies, and we are so lucky to have our expert from Sunbelt Business Brokers, Laura Chapman. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm so glad we're zooming in. We're like catching up with the times, whereas we used to do the show by phone.
Right. Yes, definitely interesting times.
Laura, tell us about what you do with Sunbelt Business Brokers.
Well, I have been with Sunbelt since 2015, and I sell small to medium-sized businesses, focus on technology businesses, and definitely on insurance agencies. That tends to be my main focus. I also do service businesses. So, any kind of small to medium sized business is my focus.
So, Laura, I just want to preface the show because about 15 years ago, I was selling my business, and I tried to do a dumb thing and sell it myself. It was the biggest nightmare I've ever been through. I finally had a friend of mine tell me, "You've got to get a business broker." And I got to tell you, I didn't even know business brokers existed. And not only do you exist, but Sunbelt Business Brokers, I've learned over the years, is one of the finest, most reputable business brokers out there. And you're not just in the Georgia area, you're throughout the country.
Yes, we're actually worldwide. So we're in 10 countries, 250 offices worldwide. Well,
it is so important. I think one of the biggest problems I had, Laura, was the tire kickers, and I found myself explaining my business to probably 80% of the people who didn't really qualify, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, I can tell you, I was there myself. I've had 3 businesses of my own, had no idea that business brokers existed. And looking back, I left a lot of money sitting on the table and went through a lot of things that, weren't weren't necessary had I known there was a business broker that could help me. The biggest thing was that it was not confidential. Everyone in town
Yes,
knew that my business was for sale. And that's a huge thing. We want to keep it confidential. There's a lot of pitfalls for a seller when they're trying to sell on their own. They need to find a buyer that has enough cash and credit. They want to make sure that one can take out a loan to buy the agency. It's difficult for sellers to hide the fact, like we said, that it's for sale. And then you might try to sell it to a competitor, but once the news gets around that it's for sale, then you're more likely to get low offers. And that's when it's a problem. And that's what I feel like I experienced in my own personal business of sales. And so that's why I'm enjoying being on the other side of this, helping people so that they don't make the same mistakes I made when I sold my businesses.
absolutely. And I got to tell you, because when you own a business, it's your baby. And sometimes you
Exactly.
think it's worth a little bit more than it probably really is in real life. But it's your baby. And I got to tell you that I thought my business was worth a lot more than it really was. So that was one of the things that was hurting me. I had it priced out too high, but I didn't know better. So that's again, and what Sunbelt does is you all really do due diligence. That is so important to you.
It is. It is. We want to make sure that we get all of the information together that and we don't want to know what you think your business is worth. We don't even
Yeah,
ask you that up front. We want to get all the information together first. And then what we do is we put it all together and we run comps. And we have, a few platforms that we use to get what a multiple of the industry standard to sell would be. And the main one that we use sits right on top of the SBA. So everything that goes through SBA goes through that platform. And that way we're able to give you the highest and best selling price, what we believe that it can be sold for. And usually we're pretty right on that. Most of our offers that we get are full price offers because the buyers know that the value is there.
exactly. And I think another thing which we're going to talk about today, and we're going to be talking about how to sell your independent insurance agency. But I want people to know that you don't ask for money up front. You get paid on what you do for your client. And I mean, you take a lot of risk, and people don't realize that. They can call you up and make an appointment with you and come in and see you, and you're not going to ask for payment.
That's right, Steve. We don't get paid unless the seller gets paid. So
And
we
you do so much work, Laura, before it gets to that point.
very true.
Yeah,
Yes.
you should know.
We do,
So,
but we do not take any retainer fees. We just believe that, we want to do the best we can do, the best job we can do to get it sold. And we sit with the seller, from the beginning all the way to the closing table.
so let's get to why should a seller, and we've kind of gone over this, but I want to really uh, target in on insurance agencies because that's one of your fortes. Um, when you about hiring a business broker to sell an agency, uh, I got to tell you, and we've been kind of talking about this, folks. Please do not try to do this on your own. I mean, this is something. This is what a business. This is all a business broker does all day long. And why turn that? Why try to save yourself a little money? The aggravation outweighs the money you're going to save.
Right, right. Yeah. You'll spend a lot of time, and there again, you can lose employees. If they find out it's for sale, they'll get nervous. They'll want to leave. and start looking for another job. So that we've seen people lose their businesses just from it getting out. So we encourage them to keep everything confidential. We keep everything confidential on our end. We don't even let buyers have any information until they've signed a non-disclosure agreement. They have to agree that, not to reveal that the agency or any business that we have for sale is for sale. And that we always make sure that any potential buyers has the financial capability to do so. We do a full buyer screening. And before we give them any confidential information, they have to go through that screening process.
Yeah, I like the way that if someone from out of state maybe is looking to relocate and buy a business in the Atlanta or Georgia area, you have so many contacts around, not like you said, not just the United States, but around the world.
We do. We have a lot of lender relationships. We have lots of relationships with CPAs and financial advisors and all across the US and very strong, of course, in Georgia. We work with lenders. We like to try to send the information on the business and insurance agencies as we list them. We like to send them to lenders to go ahead and get pre-approval, so to speak, get term sheets. And that way, when we get the buyer, we already have that part done. And then we can just introduce them to the lender. And a large part of that process has already been worked out. And so we just introduce them to the buyer, and then they kind of take it from there. And then we work all the way along the process with the lender very closely and the buyer on behalf of the seller. And if there's a lease, we negotiate, the lease with the landlord, and we do all of that on behalf of the buyer, on behalf of the seller with the
Right.
buyer.
And Laura, I guess, Sunbelt has negotiated so many sales that you know how to get creative, which is another thing, because sometimes you can actually come up with a way to make it work for both parties.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. We, every deal is different. And I think we have to get creative almost every time. So
Yeah,
I feel like as long as I've been doing this, I still learn something new every day as well, because we're always coming up with different ways to make a deal work. And the great thing is we have a really good team. So we can all pull together our ideas and our experiences. And, maybe somebody else on the team has had that experience. And so this is this is how we overcame that if it was a difficulty, and we can kind of brainstorm together. And that makes a big difference when you have a good team to work with like that.
absolutely.
So you're not just kind of an island on your own.
So what are some of the most important factors to consider when a seller is considering the sale of their insurance company?
Well, the first thing is that it's essential for a seller to make sure that they truly want to sell their business. People choose to sell their businesses for a variety of reasons. There's a million reasons why somebody might want to sell an agency, and it's important for them to get a crystal clear idea of what their reason is. Selling somebody's business is a big decision. Like you said
Yes.
earlier, it's like their child.
Yes.
And it is a very emotional, at this level, it's a very emotional decision. So we don't want someone to regret it. We want to make sure that they are ready to sell when they decide to move forward with the process. And we want to make sure that it's what they truly want to do. And then we want them to be able to proceed with confidence. And the second important factor to consider would be the actual value of the book of business. And that's for insurance agencies. It's very important to have the actual value of the book of business when trying to sell an insurance agency.
I'm reading. We just got a tweet, an instant, I guess, a message from one of the listeners who actually used Sunbelt business brokers in Dallas, Texas. And they
Great.
said, what a great way to sell my business. And I couldn't have done it. God, this must be your cousin, Laura. It's writing. No,
Well, I don't believe I have any cousins in Dallas.
okay.
I do have one in Houston, but
Okay, but isn't that nice? Somebody
Yeah.
who's listening to the show
That's
that
great.
Sunbelt sold their business for them, and he just said what a great experience it was, and I could not have done this myself. And that's kind of the key to all this.
Right. Well, that's great to hear. It's great to hear that from someone that has had that experience
Yeah.
as well. So we do hear that quite often. And like I said, having sold 3 of my own without one, I can honestly say I would never ever do that again.
Oh, listen, I'm with you. I was finally smart enough after over a year to hire a business broker, and I wasted over a year, Laura, with what it goes through when it comes to selling a business. Imagine someone like myself who knew nothing about. I knew how to run my business. I just didn't know how to sell it. But we're going to go to break. Give everybody your phone number, how they can reach you.
It's 770-936-9099, and I'm an extension 802.
And what about your website?
It is www.sunbeltatlanta.com.
Okay. But you cover actually all of Georgia, not just Atlanta. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, because we get people out of the Atlanta area that listen to the show. We're going to go to break. We're here with Laura Chapman. She's with Sunbelt Business Brokers, and we're talking about selling a business. We'll be right back.
At Sunbelt Atlanta, their team is made up of seasoned professionals with more than 70 years of collective experience selling companies. Their backgrounds and industry experience are as varied as the companies they represent. Some come from Main Street, some from Wall Street. Now, collectively, Sunbelt Atlanta business brokers have closed hundreds of transactions, and the companies they have sold range in size from $100,000 to $50 million in revenue and spanned all industries. Doreen Morgan owns Sunbelt Atlanta, and she is one of the leading merger and acquisition advisors in the United States, specializing in franchise and specialty distribution business models. For more than 15 years, Doreen has advised franchisors, multi-unit franchisees, and owners of proprietary and patented products on short and long-term portfolio exit strategies and corporate divestitures. Sunbelt has helped hundreds of business owners in Georgia get the most value from the sale of their business. Sunbelt Atlanta business brokers are a full-service company when it comes time to sell or buy a business with zero upfront fees. So discover the Sunbelt Atlanta difference and contact them today at 770-936-9099. Once again, that's 770-936-9099. Or you can visit them on the web at sunbeltatlanta.com.
Welcome back to Ask the Experts, brought to you by Custom Comfort Cooling and Heating. Now back to your host, Steve O.
And this is the Ask the Experts radio show. We're with you every Wednesday from 9 to 10, your drive time, in the mornings on 1100 a.m. here. We're talking with Laura Chapman. She's with Sunbelt Business Brokers. We're talking about selling a business today and how to go about it. And Laura, how does a seller determine, I guess, along with their agency, what their business is worth?
Right. Well, since we're discussing how to sell independent insurance agencies today, that's kind of what I'm going to focus on.
Yes.
It does carry over into other businesses, a lot of these things as well, but there'll be a few things that we're talking about that's specific to insurance agencies. But there's a number of factors to consider. Your total earnings. When we talk about total earnings of an insurance agency, there's a couple of key numbers to look for, and that would be the annualized gross commission, and the EBITDA. And EBITDA is the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. The annualized gross commission is exactly what it sounds like, the amount of money that a business makes in a year. To calculate these earnings, we're going to want to add up all the profits and subtract the expenses, and then we adjust for any rent that might be paid, especially if it's an independent agency. They don't usually need a physical office, depending on what their clientele is. And if that's the case, that's something that can be added back. And then any other expenses that are not business related that are paid through the company. And sometimes that's the case, sometimes it's not the case. But if it is, then we like to add those expenses back. So once we've done this, then, a seller's going to have a pretty good picture of their total earnings. And then we can start to gain a clear picture of what the value of the business is. And just for, agency sellers to keep in mind, most agencies do sell for 3 to 4 times the adjusted EBITDA.
And
So it's pretty good.
How do you figure growth?
Growth plays a big part in the value because it drives the agency value. If there's a strong, consistent growth, prospective buyers are going to look for that. And so they're looking for solid, consistent, repeatable growth. And that just helps the value of the agency when we go to price it.
Well, we're really targeting in today on insurance agencies. How important are carrier relationships, and do they have an impact on the value?
They do. Buyers want to make sure that sellers have really good, solid carrier relationships with reputable carriers. They want to have a stable book of business. They have consistent loss ratios. All of these things are kind of considered what we call the perfect storm. It results in positive income stream, which can factor into the sale value of an agency and what potential buyers are going to be willing to pay. All of that is just focusing on making sure that a seller is writing business with the most profitable insurance companies, and the ones that pay more commission than others.
How has COVID impacted the insurance industry?
Well, everybody needs insurance, and so I won't say that it hasn't impacted it at all, because there have been times that, people had to look at where their money was going, and even though it's a necessary thing, sometimes, you might have to pick eating over paying your insurance.
Yeah.
So I think that it did have a slight impact, but overall it wasn't we haven't seen it being a huge impact.
Lori, if a person was interested in buying an insurance company, now there's insurance companies out there that maybe they specialize in life insurance, or maybe they specialize in auto insurance. Is it better to look at an agency that handles all different areas of insurance?
Yes. Buyers do like versatile. We do have a larger buyer pool for insurance agencies, and independent insurance agencies is what we look for.
Okay.
If they're selling a lot of home and auto, that's the big thing. Life is kind of a little bit different. Not every there are a lot of times there's separate buyers that are looking for people that just sell life insurance. A lot of times those agencies they just focus on one or the other.
Question: what is the transition period for the seller?
Typically, a transition period is going to be about 2 to 4 weeks once it closes, and that would be included in the sale. Anything beyond 8 weeks, we usually recommend that to be negotiated as compensation. So if the seller were to stay on longer than 8 weeks to transition the business, then the buyer would usually compensate the seller for that time. Anything up to 8 weeks, we would consider that typically included in the sale. If a seller's interested in staying on long term, it would depend on whether or not the deal is being financed through SBA. If that's the case, the seller can only stay on with the new owner for a period up to 1 year, because that's an SBA rule. A consultation agreement is always a good way to kind of negotiate to keep the seller engaged. And that's usually something, if the seller and the buyer are both interested in, then we can work out negotiating a consultation agreement.
Or
And then
we've
the
only
seller can stay on typically longer than a year.
we've only got about 30 seconds left. Tell people why they should retain Sunbelt Business Brokers.
Well, I can tell you, if you have an independent insurance agency and you're looking to sell it, the last one I took to market went under contract in 3 days.
No
And we had
kidding.
it sold in less than 2 months. We know how to sell. We know how to sell your business. We know how to sell your independent agency, insurance agency, and we can get the highest amount for your company.
And
We
you are
work hard.
you are so good at what you do.
Thank you.
If you have an insurance company, you've been think about, maybe retiring, maybe putting it out for sale. Hopefully that we've told you about Sunbelt Business Brokers, because they are without a doubt the best. And what we're going to do is every week we're going to zero in on different types of businesses. And today has been insurance. And Laura, you've done such a great job. Let's give everybody your phone number one more time.
It's 770-936-9099, and I can be reached at extension 802.
Laura, thank you. What a great job you've done today representing Sunbelt Business Brokers. And like I said, Sunbelt will be back with us again next week at 9:30 with more expert information. Laura, thanks again. And
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
You did such a great job, and we'll be back again next Wednesday, from 9 to 10 with more Ask the Experts. Everybody have a wonderful week. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon.
At Sunbelt Atlanta, their team is made up of seasoned professionals with more than 70 years of collective experience selling companies. Their backgrounds and industry experience are as varied as the companies they represent. Some come from Main Street, some from Wall Street. Now, collectively, Sunbelt Atlanta Business Brokers have closed hundreds of transactions, and the companies they have sold range in size from $100,000 to $50 million in revenue and spanned all industries. Doreen Morgan owns Sunbelt Atlanta, and she is one of the leading merger and acquisition advisors in the United States, specializing in franchise and specialty distribution business models. For more than 15 years, Doreen has advised franchisors, multi-unit franchisees, and owners of proprietary and patented products on short and long-term portfolio exit strategies and corporate divestitures. Sunbelt has helped hundreds of business owners in Georgia get the most value from the sale of their business. Sunbelt Atlanta Business Brokers are a full-service company when it comes time to sell or buy a business with zero upfront fees. So discover the Sunbelt Atlanta difference and contact them today at 770-936-9099. Once again, that's 770-936-9099. Or you can visit them on the web at sunbeltatlanta.com.
You have been listening to the Ask the Expert show, brought to you by the top air conditioning and heating company in the Atlanta area, Custom Comfort Cooling and Heating. If you need service on your air conditioner or heating system, call them at 678-878-1313 Join us again next Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for more Ask the Experts with Atlanta's leading experts in legal, health, financial, and home improvement.